an ongoing human question that we have, like, what is the world around us?
Just me being here and observing the world around me is what unlocks an infinite amount of possibilities.
Black holes make chirp sounds when they collide through the gravitational waves that they are outputting.
I mean, it's just working closely with data is quite inspiring, so it just triggers a lot of different ideas on how to create music.
Atoms are like instruments, and I'd like to be able to find a way of mapping those rules and the structures of these atoms and molecules and turn them into instruments that we as humans can experience and learn from and enjoy. Atoms have vibration, which is fundamental to sound. The electrons have individual harmonics depending on what energy level they are, which is very similar to a note on a piano or an instrument where you have the fundamentals and then you have its harmonics, which constitute the character of that sound. So how do we translate molecules into sound? Through additive synthesis. Additive synthesis is a method of sound design where complex sounds are created by layering simple sine waves, the purest sound waveform, at different frequencies, volumes, and phases. Curtis Rhodes says in the computer music tutorial, any sound can be broken down into sine waves through Fourier transformation. Additive synthesis flips the idea, building sounds by stacking them together. As Gordon Reeves from Sound on Sound puts it, you can regenerate literally any waveform, a car horn, the D sharp on a piano, or the quack of a duck, all by mixing sine waves together at the appropriate frequencies and amplitudes. For this project, we will use additive synthesis as a key technique, representing the water molecules sonically, mapping the frequency of each electron to sine waves and layering them to create a complex sound world.
Storm in a Teacup is a performance piece blending chemistry with audio theatre. Using molecular structures programmed into Max MSP to shape sound, the project connects choreography, design, and music to create immersive, cross-cultural experiences that share science through art.
As the atom got heavier, it became more dissonant and more unsettling, which sort of reflects the heavier atoms in nature. Whereas the atoms that are very common and that are key to life, like carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, they all sounded quite nice and quite relaxing.
Fundamentally, what is water? 2 hydrogen atoms bonded to 1 oxygen atom. And the way that this happens is via the transfer or sharing of electrons. And the oxygen wants to have a full outer ring here, a full orbital, or a couple of orbitals technically, of 8 electrons. So what it does is it uses the electrons from the hydrogen. And that in itself forms the bond that brings the hydrogens with the oxygens.
Water is fluid, transformative, and they never be static. They are always like in a process of changing, and I quite like that concept. It's beautiful.
The interesting thing about working with this patch is how unpredictable it is, and even though I created it in a way where it was the sound of ice or water, it didn't necessarily sound like that. So through our listening and exploring with the dancer and the singer, we identified different emotions or sort of states like snowy mountain or deep underwater trench, just through listening and engaging with the patch in a more experimental way. So even though it wasn't technically ice, it sounded like ice, and so that became more important.
Do you think that one sounded like it was like deep in the earth, like soil, or do you...
It's quite like something
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, could be. Oh,
Yeah. Deep cave water, should we call it that? Yeah.
Let's read.
That's a little bit chest, I think. A little bit what? It's like very quick. Does that?
Can you make it slower?
Yeah. It's like something like nearly happened, but we are not going that part.
It does sound like soil, because the undersoil, in the soil, you get the little insects.
Little things.
Yeah.
It could just be this sound. I could freeze it on this sound. So what state does this feel like to you?
I feel like the deep ocean.
Yeah, this is the one that we felt was like in a trench, a deep sea trench. Like it also has the movement of the waves. Yeah.
I spent a lot of time thinking or trying to make it as accurate as possible, even though the audience or the listener would never notice that effort that's gone into that. So actually, it's really about does it feel or does it emotionally connect with these states?
In performance, that's never going to be as accurate. So as much as you can write in the specific pitch in like the most accurate way, it's never going to be like that. There's always like in expression, musical expression, there's always a little bit of the inaccuracy, which is what makes it like a really exciting in a way.
I'm kind of basically just doing techno. Using this instrumentation, it's fairly abstract, you know, the visuals I use are fairly abstract. It's not really been that much of a, you can't really go wrong playing, you know, it's not going to tell a crazy story of something that isn't true.
Every single art form is going to have just to make a compromise at some point. And then data should be like a tool, a technique in order just to help conveying the ideas that you want to bring to the foreground in the piece.
I finally just decided, fuck the science, let's just get a nice sounding synth in. It's like 8 different instances of FM8, and it's like some sort of bell voice.
So this was the compromise that you made.
This was the compromise that I made, because I decided to just ditch the sine waves, even though they were integral to the concept.
Can see what's happening. We're just like, what's going?
It's just suddenly decided to work.
The molecule, the moving, the pattern is very direct and clear, and trying to learn more from the knowledge and to embody from my body, my dance, and to explore more how to make my body to show this more clear for audience.
I find that sometimes when you're playing to a science crowd, the music isn't always something they want. And you play the gravity synth to a music crowd, maybe an experimental music crowd, they're not always that interested in the physics. But when we start putting people in pools, and, you know, in terms of immersion, you know, they're actually physically immersed in the pool with underwater speakers, and so the water is, you know, full of music. People were suddenly really captivated, and the music and the science really came together. It's great in the water because people are, you know, have got the sort of the magic of being underwater with it, and they're really thinking about waves because they're, you know, in a pool. Yeah, I like using, you know, hardware instruments, and, you know, I do use a little bit of computing to maybe projection map or put the stuff into surround sound.
I think that would be really valuable to our society in general if people were more open to thinking about these concepts that we are exploring in science. I think it would be a really valuable way to connect people as well if we can have more conversations about this and we can realize that we're also connected to, like, ancestrally to the past through these conversations as well.
When we move that into the stage, we try to make people understand the concept, understand how it may be interacted with the body, with the space, and with the light. I think what we were doing is to try to conceptualize those knowledge into an interesting and fun way for the audience to engage in the immersive space.
When I come to UK, I open my mind. I know, how exciting! The dancer also could work with this science.
The more layers you can put in a piece, the more layers of meaning. So something like it's not just shallow, then you're going to be able just to engage audience in different ways and have different interpretations, and that creates a very nice dialogue, understanding of the piece, and those kind of discussions is what keeps moving us forward.
I would like my audience to feel inspired to learn more. I'd like them to feel like they were empathetically connected to the subjects of the work, whether or not they're human. I would like them to feel like a greater sense of wonder at the world around them.
I'm not a scientist, but through my creative practice and found a new inspiration to learning about science through my engagement with it as an artist. And so it's sort of, I think it's quite motivational for other people to see that even though I'm not a scientist, I'm able to learn about these things in my own way, and I encourage other people to do the same.